Welcome to this edition of Tech Talk. One of the biggest challenges facing the real estate industry right now is viability. It's been revealed that 20% of agencies in Australia are struggling to even break even. With downward pressure on fees increasing, it's reasonable to assume that business owners will be looking for more productivity while needing to cut back on their overheads. Philippines outsourcing company Beepo, one of our sponsors, have revealed that 62% of all of their inquiries is now coming from the real estate industry, with 38% of those being for property management and property management by way of assistance. With this increasing demand, Beepo have turned to Rockend, another one of our supporters, to develop an end-to-end property management solution. Scott Downing, who is the Chief Customer Officer for Rockend and Property Tree, joins us to discuss the offering. Scott, thanks for your time.
Good morning.
What would you outline are the services? What does this service entail, Scott?
So Rockend does actually use the services of Beepo for our own office work. So we went through a big piece of due diligence to choose a provider that we knew could support us as an organisation, but also understood the industry. So through that process, we have Beepo doing some of our back office marketing work and also some of our helping some of our customers on board. And throughout that, we started to hear from a lot of our customers around the pressure around commercial viability. And also a lot of talk started to come our way around what's being banded around as virtual property assistants. So we started to talk to Beepo around really how could we make sure that we helped our customers have a virtual assistant or outsource some of their mundane tasks in a way that was really quick for them, that was cost effective, but also, or more importantly, secured peace of mind for them around the quality of the work that would be being done for them. So not only around the security of their data, but knowing that when they turned this support on, they had the reassurance that Rockend had certified these assistants to be able to use Rockend software, so be that Rest Professional or Property Tree. And that's really where the journey started.
Yeah, well, like you, we also use Beepo. We've got a team of people there and found them very professional. While they, don't only focus on real estate, it's a very big part of what they do, and it's growing all the time. The reason for you developing this, I guess, came off the back of a lot of confidence in the product that Beepo put out. But were there any other reasons? I know that you mentioned there about viability of the industry, and I certainly touched on that in the opening as well. Do you see those who come to this service obviously benefiting from it quite quickly?
Yeah, we do. So we've also just recently done a property management survey of which we got over 1,000 responses from property management business owners or principals. And one of the top three things that came out for them as a concern or a front of mind topic was actually outsourcing to be able to get greater productivity from their office staff. So how do they grow their businesses with decreasing profit margins, but also without increasing the number of people that they needed to have in their office? And that was a real big piece of data that came our way. So that was another thing that sort of helped us realize that we wanted to put back into the industry and create something for them, i.e. the Rockend Property Assistant. Yeah.
Can we just briefly then touch on some of the property management services that can be outsourced?
Yeah, sure. So just before I answer that, I think one of the other things that really hit us when we were going through this and partnering with Beepo was I would go out and talk to a lot of our big, larger customers, and they were potentially already, or a lot of them were already using virtual assistants. And I asked them about what was their journey to get to this. And they were saying, I had to document my internal processes. I had to make sure that my staff didn't feel threatened that they would be losing jobs. Some of them had to create a new server. And very often they were sending some of their employees from their office out to their outsourced provider in the Philippines or India for up to 6 weeks to train the virtual assistant in their own processes. And it just didn't feel it felt counterintuitive to me that I'd have to turn off some of my business here to be able to put it over there. So what we did with Beepo would say, okay, so what are the offerings? What are the key things that we know from our expertise in the industry is currently being put in outsourcing? And how do we make sure that the processes are being done properly to maximize all the features within the software? And therefore, then that means that a customer can just call us or call Beepo and go, I want to outsource this task, this task, this task, and potentially it's up and running within 24 hours. So there's no security risks, there's no demand on their resource in their office, and there's absolutely no need to send someone overseas to ensure the quality of the work because we've already certified these people to be able to use the software. So there's three broad categories of service that can be done by a Rockend property assistant. So it's really about new property onboarding. So bringing that into your software and into your business. How do we put the property and all the details around that, which includes all of the marketing and the listings. The second sort of vertical is around new tenant onboarding. So how do we bring all the tenant details in, pre-occupancy, the leasing, all of the stuff that comes with that, scheduling the pre-move-in inspection, etc. There's then tenancy management, which is the third vertical, and all the things you would expect there around arrears management, routine inspections, maintenance, repairs. And then the third one is the end of the customer life cycle, which is the tenancy exit and all the administration that comes with that. So condition reports, scheduling, bond release, etc. So we've really done it in a way that it's around the customer journey for our customers that use the Rockend software. And obviously then the way that our customers are currently doing this is sort of saying, what are the mundane tasks that our employees actually really don't want to do? You know, and if you sit down in your office and say, write on a board all of the things that you really don't like doing every day, these are the things that actually we can put into a Rockend property assistant, which means staff can then spend more time doing detailed conversations with their customers, business development, all the things that will help real estate people retain their strong staff that's not dealing with mundane tasks. And it's more cost effective.
Scott, is there an ideal size for a property management business, one that would be suited to outsourcing? Do they get to that stage, or can it work at any stage?
It can work at any stage. So we've even been having conversations with people that we would call a new startup. So they're taking out Property Tree. They've only got their very first property in there in terms of it being a rental. And they're already looking at how can they run this business with a virtual assistant or a property assistant over in Beepo. So that they don't start their business and then have to change. This is the new way of working, and it's just the way that the business is being set up. So right up to, thousands of properties under management from one, there's no way. It is exactly entirely up to the customer to be able to do that. You can do one task or you can do all 13. It's entirely your choice.
I want to ask you a few more questions about the survey, but before we do, and I guess this is some of your research as well, and you touched on it earlier in our conversation about the industry perception of outsourcing. Do you think it's improving? Because you touched on a few issues there that you'd discovered as you went out and walked around. But is that changing, do you think, Scott?
Yeah, and so we've been working with Beepo for over 12 months now. So we did a trip and obviously visited several suppliers and used our previous experience in outsourcing across India and Philippines and the skill that we have in Rockend in that space to make an informed choice of who we wanted to go to. And when we were talking to a lot of our customers around that, there was a lot of trepidation around data security and people not being skilled or educated to the right level. And even in just the last 6 to 8 months, that has completely flipped. So we've just run a series of leadership lunches and Evolve seminars with customers and prospects. And it's one of the, like I said, including in the survey, it's one of the top 3 sort of hot topics that everyone's talking about. And it's more around, my mate's done it and it seems to be going okay for his business or her business. Therefore, I feel like I should really start and open my eyes to this opportunity to help me grow my business and sort of stay abreast of what's happening in the industry. I think it's a choice. There's so many outsourcers that you can use and everyone has the decision is theirs. All I would say is just be really careful and check it out around the security because it's your data. And obviously check out the training and education for the people that will be working on your behalf as an extended part of your team. But people are much more open to that now. And I think we're starting to see the value of it in our industry because, these people they're university educated. You know, we've got people out there that are more educated probably than you or I, and could be a doctor or an architect, you know, and it's just, this is seen as a really good job to them. It's seen as a career path. And there's people that have been working in the outsourcing agencies for, you know, 5-6 years that are now stepping into management. So it's a real career for them, and they're there. I think they need to be seen as an extension of your team, not a replacement of. And I think that's the key.
Yeah, I think for too long we've looked at outsourcing as an opportunity to get, I call it cheap staff, but that's not the way to look at it, because as you rightly pointed out, they're highly skilled, and in some cases, you know, you have to pay them more than that cheap rate.
Yep.
But can I just ask you then, the research that you did, that you've reflected on already, and I believe we're going to put a copy of that with the compliments of Beepo and Rockend, of course, down below. There's a link to download it. What were some of the other key findings that came out of that for you in terms of trying to ramp this up, its importance?
Yeah, so I think that obviously there is the one around how do I maximize my sort of profit margins by as I grow my business without putting more cost into my business. And obviously this is one of the things that we've talked about, one of the solutions. The second one was really cloud readiness. So for the people in the industry that currently aren't using cloud-based software solutions or aren't using the APIs with all the multiple, you know, I think every day I see a new app come out that supports this industry, you know, that can give you time back. People that aren't playing in that space already, it was really around that apprehension and that intrigue of, how do I move to the cloud? Am I ready? Should I? Everyone's telling me I should. What does it mean for me? And really that stepping into that journey of, I need to start and look at this. And that's another reason why at Rockend, we've got the cloud readiness assessment, which is for our customers that are on our desktop product, but also for customers that aren't on our products that will help. We will assign a relationship manager to look through your current processes, look at how you're using your software, and then make solutions of how you can move to the cloud as painlessly as possible and help them on that journey. It's really around outsourcing and cloud readiness.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question about cloud readiness, and you've touched on it quite nicely there and addressed that, because there are certain things you need to make sure that you're ready for, and that's actually what that assessment process will do. So if you're interested in doing that, then just check with Rockend, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you through that. Scott, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Endorse fully what you're doing with Beepo. I think they're a great operation, and we support them as they support us. And thank you very much for your support as well. My guest has been Scott Downing, who is the Chief Customer Officer for Rockend Property Tree. Scott, thanks for your time.
No worries. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi once again. If you follow my next guest around at Inman Connect in New York, he's like a magnet. Like, everyone comes and says hi because they all know Peter Brewer. G'day, Peter. How you doing?
How are you?
Good, mate. Good to be talking to you. And
congratulations on what you're doing here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're having a ball. We're having a ball. There's so much to learn, Peter. And I know you've been coming here for a long, long time. And each time you come, you learn a bit more.
Absolutely. There's always 2 or 3 gems. And if there's not gems, there's some reaffirmations that we're on the right track with our own clients back in Oz. So,
yeah, interesting. Do you see much of a difference between how we transact in Australia and New Zealand compared to the US? Is it coming together, do you think?
You know, I think we're still a long way apart in terms of the way that we transact, the actual transaction itself, but the way we relate to people, the way we use technology, the way we build relationships with people, that's universal. You know, this business has always been about make a friend today, do the deal later. And so what Inman continues to bring to me is the best technology and the best processes to put that in place to allow us to do that on a higher scale. I guess that's some of the key things that I take away.
Interesting thing, all the years you and I have been doing these sorts of shows, Peter, one of the things that occurs to me is that technology moves on, gives us some great tools, but unless as agents we do something with it, it's got no value.
1000%. You know, we saw a great session, and I think you had Jeff Turner on one of the shows the other day. Jeff did a great session for us around AI. And AI is such a magnificent tool that's available to our industry, but you've still got to plug that human component back in to make the relationship work. So all of these tools and all these things are wonderful, but it's still about the people. And that for me has been interesting. I've been coming since 2010 through to, so this I think is my 18th or 19th Inman. And watching the pendulum swing to, we went all technology, all social media around 2010, 11, the pendulum's kind of swung back the other way, and I think we're about balance now. Need the tools, need the people.
Interesting, 10 years ago, or 10, 15 years ago maybe, if you'd come to a conference like this, there would have been so many opportunities for you to buy training programs, online training programs, come to me, I'm a mentor, and so on and so forth. There's not a lot of that here. It's now all about technology and tools to help you run your own business, even online coaching.
Absolutely. Look, I still think there's that opportunity, but the tools are getting easier to use. My challenge to the industry back in Australia, at the risk of being controversial, is I think many of the franchise groups have lost their way with this stuff. They know they need to plug it in, but they're at a loss on how they start to plug these tools in for their franchisees and their team of sales.
What tools are you talking about there, Peter?
Well, I think anything, whether it's the effective use of the websites. I mean, let's be honest. You know, the REAs and the domains, who I love dearly. I mean, I've got to say, REA are doing a magnificent job of looking after our industry. But I suspect they wouldn't be there in the dominance that they have if the industry itself had taken some serious control of the digital space back in the early 2000s. You know, they let that ball slip, and I still see it now with CRMs or AI, and many franchisees sitting back saying, why am I paying this 8 or 10% if there's no genuine leadership? So, I mean, that's potentially controversial, but I think they're missing opportunities.
It's interesting you say that, and because Rain and Horn, one of our sponsors here in these broadcasts, and I'm not mentioning that for that reason, it's just that I was talking to Angus Rain only just a few moments ago, and he was telling me about their portal, what they're doing for their franchisees. And that's having a tremendous impact on how they reach people, understand about their audience and so on. These are the kind of tools that I think the franchisees need to move into.
1000%. You know, we've got to understand our franchisees, and I'm not a franchisor, they're in the field, they're working day to day. They're looking for leadership in this space. And I wrote recently, I think the industry lacked the leadership it should have given, whether that's at institute level or franchise group level, have lacked the leadership they should have provided for the last 15 years that this stuff's been kind of prevalent, instead of saying, let's get interested today. Does that make sense?
It does. I want to pick up on that point, because I think it's one of the frustrations that Angus Rain explained to me was, they can build these great tools, but unless they can get their franchisees to use them and understand them and embrace them, they have no value. It's a bit like a CRM. You know, we only ever use about 15% of a CRM, but you know, what happens to the rest of it? You know, why can't we, it's like video. You know, we've been banging on about video for so long, but there's still so few agents who use it, Peter.
I'm watching a changing of the guard, Kev, and I agree with you. The implementation of this is the challenge for everyone, and that's just not Australia, that's New Zealand and it's United States. It's why you've got 4,000 or 5,000 people here and 25,000 people at an NAR event. We cater to the masses, and we don't do the implementation well enough to teach the people how to use it. We're also an aged industry, and I'll share, you know this, the average age of a real estate agent in the United States is 58 years of age. The average age of the person that consumes the product is 31, and it's very similar in Australia. And there's a serious disconnect between 58s, fat old white men like me, and 31s, the way we transact and do stuff. But I'm seeing a changing of the guard, where we've got all these young whippersnappers, and I say that really respectfully, who are coming and going, that's the tool, that's the way we communicate, that's digital, and they're starting to really own that space. While the veterans, my vintage anyway, are sitting back saying, well, I'll just resort to the old letterbox drops or the cold calls, or, you know, life's moved on, and we need to move on with it.
Yeah, is it, as an industry, we're not sexy enough to attract the young people? I mean, we've certainly got enough technology.
I think when I look at the volume of young people that are coming in, who are going with some really nice boutiques or going alone, funded by family instead of racing off to join franchises, I think the industry isn't sexy enough at that franchise level, and they're saying, we actually don't need to pay an 8 or 10% for some of that stuff. that we can actually do on our own with some great technology.
Yeah, I think
mentors.
the institutes in Australia, and you're the president of the institute in Queensland, you need to take some responsibility for recruiting young people. And I know as an initiative in the REIQ, your institute, you've got a young person on your board, and you actually encourage young guns.
Absolutely, we've got to do that. You know, they are the future of in fact, they're not even the future, they are the today of our industry. And so we've got to look to them, what do they need, what do they want, and provide those things, whether it's technology, whether it's training, whether it's whatever services they need. So I'm really passionate about doing that with the REIQ. We're the only institute in Australia that runs its dedicated technology day. We've got a dedicated technology room at the REIQ at Cannon Hill. So that's a really important plus for us, I think, for us, for relevance for the future. And I think, again, I'm going to sound like I'm picking on the franchises today, but there's not many of them here that are soaking up this information. And their struggle for the future will be, how do they retain their relevance to the member of today and the member of the future?
Great to see you here, Peter. As always, it's tremendous talking to you, mate. We're out of time. You and I could talk for half an hour.
Absolutely,
easy.
Yeah.
But all the best, mate, and look forward to seeing you in your bright attire. you must have a number of those coats, do you?
I have several of these, It's got a bit of a trademark.
You certainly stand out in the crowd, I can tell you.
Well, we try to do that. We're part of the ambassador program here at Inman, so I run a team of 20 ambassadors here on the ground. Our job is to make the experience great for those that come along. We hope we do that. So thanks for having us.
Peter Brewer, always welcome, my friend.
Peter.
You're welcome. You've got a chair here anytime you want.
Right, thank you.
Sherrie, there's a lot said about becoming an attraction agent, but to become an attraction agent, that requires a lot of profile marketing.
Yes, no, I agree. And I think as much as everyone wants to be an attraction agent, the reality is that you actually need to get there first. So I think, the first thing you need to do is actually just build up that, I guess, that profile by hard work and by creating, raving mad fans. And then once you've got raving mad fans and they start to give you referrals and then it all starts to come together, and then you start to make money so that you can actually, post on the internet and those sorts of things.
So is it like building blocks? You just start with one, you make the best thing, you do the best you can with that, then you build on it?
Yes, and I think people look at, what they want to do in a year. I don't look at it that way. I'm actually very focused on 3 months, and I use each individual property, I guess, as you talk about, as a block to actually get to the next step, to get to the next step, to get to the next step. So it is very, very specific.
You work in an office that's got some pretty high-profile operators. In fact, some of the best high-profile operators in Brisbane or Queensland, maybe even Australia, who knows? But how do you stand out in that environment? Why would someone come to your office and list with you?
Yeah, you are right. I do work in a remarkable office. And if I may, that's probably one of the reasons why I want to work there, because I actually want to be in an environment where people want to be the best at their craft, and we all want to have that high-performance mentality. I am truly blessed to work in that environment. But I suppose at the end of the day, if I'm coming up against somebody else high profile in my office, quite often what we'll do, rather than fight each other for it, we'll actually just join forces and we'll go for it ourselves. So I think our office has a very different atmosphere to most other real estate agencies, where we're not actually fighting each other, we're actually do genuinely want the best for each other.
Sherrie, how important has social media been to you in building your profile?
Well, that's really been a foundation, I suppose, to my business. So I get at least a lead a day from Facebook. Now, some of them may not be my preferred leads, but the reality is that if I'm not able to work it, I might be able to refer it to somebody else in my office or another agency. So I think it is absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
and of course video's given us that opportunity to actually show a lot more personality in what we do. Do you use that in your communication?
Yeah, look, I do. I love video, and I do see the relevance, and I do very strongly believe in video. So as soon as I list a property, I literally do, the 30-second, hold my phone up or my iPad up. And it's really funny, people love those videos. The professional ones, I always get a couple of likes, but I get lots of shares for these 30-second videos that I do. And it's really funny, I literally stand up there, I do one take, and I'm back in the car and I'm kind of running off.
Sure.
But the amount of people that might call me up and say, oh, Sherrie, I don't know if you realise, but you said "and" there a few times, or, so people are actually really watching.
Critiquing you.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's kind of great. But, I'll run into somebody in the street and they'll sort of say to me, hi Sherrie, how you going? I'm like, great, I haven't seen you in ages. And they said, well, I feel like I see you all the time because I watch your videos. So I know that they're actually being used. One of the properties that I sold earlier this year, the video was actually shared and I got an offer from somebody else's database, I suppose, on Facebook, which is powerful. You
use video also for seller feedback, don't you?
Yes, I do. So as soon as I finish an open home, I do send a video to my buyers, but I also do send one to sellers as well, because then I'm in the car, they're dying to find out what happened at the open home, and I don't necessarily have a moment to give them a call at that time. Sometimes, I might need to call somebody hot back from an open home 1 or 2 before, but they know that I'm going to get back to them that day, but they've got an immediate response ready to go.
Those videos you do for buyers who come to open homes, are they done for every individual buyer?
Not every buyer, but obviously if somebody has come to a few of my open homes that day, they will actually be more specific, because it's clear that they're a qualified buyer who's ready to go now.
And what do you say to them?
I just generally thank them for their time and for coming through, and see if they have any further interest to give me a call, and letting them know when I'm going to be in contact furthermore.
Have you got a script for that, or is that just done off the cuff?
Well, we do it a lot, so I guess we've kind of become a little bit programmed, but no, it's done off the cuff.